Welcome to this week's episode of Beyond the Box with your host and CEO of BabbleBox, Sherry Langbert. Sherry interviews the world's biggest brands, agencies, and influencers to uncover their influencer marketing secrets to success. Go behind the scenes and learn how you can make influencer marketing part of your social media playbook. Subscribe to Beyond the Box at podcast.babblebox.com. Listen to all of your favorite episodes and follow us on Instagram for more influencer marketing inspiration.
If you're in need of a pick-me-up, today's guest will come to the rescue with his personality and product. Avi Markus is the president of BeOn Energy Gems, dark chocolate energy supplements packed with caffeine so you can skip those runs to Starbucks. Welcome to the show, Avi.
How are you?
Good. It's really a pleasure to have you there. For those of you who don't know, many of you don't, Avi and I, he's probably one of my first friends. We've been friends for many, many years. So truly excited to have you here.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. And yes, you are maybe my oldest friend. True.
I'm not that old. No, I'm kidding. So, what's exciting to me is that, I tag you as like my friend who's a serial foodpreneur. Can you tell me, how did you get into this space?
Yeah, I started, I did a business degree in Toronto, and I initially took a very traditional route into tier 1 CPG. So I worked at Unilever, and then I moved over to Shoppers Drug Mart, which is Canada's, one of Canada's largest retailers, and essentially kind of Walgreens in Canada. But I learned really quickly while being in being deeply involved with numerous quality packaged good companies that I was really much more of an entrepreneur, and I made the decision to leave what was a very traditional and secure route, and I found myself a business partner. And around 2007, I launched my first food brand, which was actually an organic loose leaf tea called Nourish Tea, and we grew it nationwide across key accounts. And I learned really quickly that it wasn't that I was necessarily only in the tea category, but really what I was doing was entering this natural foods ecosystem, and I never looked back.
And definitely ahead of the curve there, because you said 2007.
That's true. Actually, when we launched Nourish Tea, it was essentially around the same time that tea was just starting to become more and more significant and prevalent in the marketplace. Teavana was growing, and David's Tea here out of Canada was growing. And what we wanted to do was really, provide a much more affordable and accessible route to organic loose leaf tea. So rather than, spending X dollars for, a tin of 100 grams of organic rooibos, you can find it at your nearest drugstore, at Walmart, and it was really successful in that respect.
That's amazing. What other food ventures have you been involved with, past, present, future?
So obviously, as you know, I run this caffeine-infused dark chocolate energy product called BeOn, and that's this is really what I've been doing now for the past 5 or 6 years. But after Nourish Tea, it was acquired in 2011, I think, completed the acquisition around 2013. And for a while, I stayed involved. I actually took it to the Northeast of the United States. But then I've kind of been involved with, as an advisor or consultant, on a few different lines. I was involved with a protein bar and a stevia. I am currently involved with the development of a toddler formula coming out from overseas into the North American market. So I've kind of had my fingers in a few areas. And like the nice thing about the natural food space is that in many ways, like I said, it really is an ecosystem, and the skills and the network is really transferable. So it enables you to kind of, or rather it enabled me to be involved in areas.
And, we kind of talk about that you're an entrepreneur. So I'm going to ask you, what's the most challenging part of being an entrepreneur, and what's the most rewarding part of being an entrepreneur?
That's a great question. And I think, actually, I should rephrase that. Actually, I have always really known inside that I'm much more of an entrepreneur. It's not just a way of life and a way of conducting business, but it's a decision on how you want to conduct your career. going the traditional route is obviously provides you with certain benefits that I was willing to to overlook. I don't think I could ever look back. I really enjoy what I do. It's given me the ability to participate and be involved with numerous categories and numerous brands, and my network is vast, and it's been a lot of fun.
I will say that, people like, Sherry, why do you like work so many hours? And the truth is, it's like people think like, oh, you're an entrepreneur, you're working so many hours because that's just the part of being an entrepreneur. But I love what I do. Like when you create what you do, it's hard not to love it, right?
100%.
So
You're so right. And I'll also tell you that, once Nourish Tea was acquired, I had that fork in the road where I was really wondering if I should just go back to the traditional route. And I knew really, really quickly that I could not change the direction I'm on right now.
no, that makes sense. So tell me about BeOn. Like what's the product line, the flavors, the everything?
So BeOn is a caffeine-infused dark chocolate product. It's a Blommer dark chocolate. It's a really beautiful product that, for all intents and purposes, it's kind of that, a almost like an M&M on steroids in terms of what it looks like. But really, it's not a candy. It's closer to a supplement. It's a vitamin-infused B&D complex, turmeric in the shell, dark chocolate, caffeine infused with 133 milligrams of caffeine per serving. And, the efficacy is really strong. People who enjoy it really, the feedback we receive is that they really get that caffeine boost that they're looking for. We, in many ways, also were I've been lucky to be involved with some lines that are really ahead of the curve. This is our own formulation. We created it about 6-7 years ago. BeOn used to be called Energy Gems, where you found us in grocery and drug. And when I came on board, I kind of reformulated or reformatted how we do business. The team rebranded the product as BeOn. The idea is to be on your game. It's a product that really resonates with the female demographic, and we do exceptionally well online. And I say that because this is the energy category traditionally has been really male skewed. You'll find us in hospitality, portions of convenience, and that being hospitals, airports, train stations, etc. You'll find us in traditional C-stores, but where we really perform well is online.
And so I think that like everyone, what's going on because of COVID with online, like what has shifted for you from retail to online?
Just like everyone else, I think that we were kind of deer in headlights, so to speak, when COVID hit, because we all had to reassess, where our business is going. We had actually just gone through a real successful exercise of understanding our customers through data. So historically, we had always been lucky enough to really dig deep into our data and understand who our customers are and where they are and what they do. It's tougher in retail to really get that understanding unless you're acquiring the data. We had just gone through this exercise to determine really where we perform best, what parts of the store, what type of formats of stores, and then COVID hit. So suddenly, retail took a dive, and we've been, fortunate that while retail took a dive, e-commerce improved. We were up 2, 3, maybe 4x at one point. It's obviously stabilized, just like it has for everybody. We are now, we've reassessed, and now we are rebuilding our Amazon. We've created a storefront on Amazon, and we are tearing down our subscription program on Lovebeon.com, which I should mention is our website, and we're rebuilding it. And now different marketplaces are you're going to find us on not just your, Lucky Vitamin and Walmart and Kroger Marketplace, which is launching shortly. We know where we perform well, and I would like us to put more and more resources into e-commerce.
So Amazon.
Yeah.
Let me ask. I'm not an e-commerce person. Are you afraid of Amazon? Like what I hear from a lot of our partners is like, oh, we have a product and now Amazon is copying us with like a generic brand that they just put up there. Is that of a concern to you?
You know what? On the contrary, I am so very not afraid of Amazon. I think Amazon is a it is the Titanic. It's a large animal that you have to learn how to operate within. But I'm really excited about what Amazon has provided for us right now and for brands everywhere. I mean, if you think about what Amazon was 10 years ago, today we have really the tools. First of all, I should also say that unlike many other brands, we really focus our attention on conversion as opposed to impressions. So we are less about getting as much visibility as possible. And the way that we conduct our e-commerce is to convert as quickly as possible. And in order to do that, we have to really understand who our customers are and target them effectively. And there's this perception that it's hard to do that on Amazon. You need to do that through your own e-commerce platform. And what we are learning more and more is that the tools that are available to us today through Amazon really gives us that ability and that mobility. And it's been for me, this has been, as a brand person, I'm learning more and more about e-commerce, and I'm so excited about the learnings I'm getting now. And Amazon's really giving us that high conversion ability through targeted ad spend. And so the short, I guess that's the long answer. The short answer is that I think that we should be really leveraging Amazon much more than we are.
And I don't know if you're allowed to answer this, but what percentage of your business pre-COVID was coming from Amazon and post-COVID? During COVID, is it how much of a driver is Amazon for you?
Before COVID, when you look at the multiple verticals in e-commerce, again, that would be our own subscription platform, and then your marketplace, and then Amazon. Amazon was probably always 50 to 60% of our sales online. And if you think about it, that makes sense, because customers, we are so trained to be comfortable with Amazon. We know we know where we're paying. We know it will be shipped on time. We know where we can track it will never go down. There's just a legitimacy and a comfort level with Amazon that you can't. That's immeasurable. So it's in no way to me surprising that customers are more comfortable buying on Amazon than on our platform. Not that they shouldn't, but just generally. And it's, when you look at the data, it clearly comes through.
Fascinating. I want to start learning more about this too. So I'm going to pick your brain in the future about everything that you're learning. So one of the things we have in common is we are both Canadian, and I'm just fascinated also at the Canadian marketplace. For you, what is it like being a food marketer that does work with US and in the US and international, but is based in Canada? What are the pros and cons of, being in Canada?
Well, at the Canadian market, I mean, it's our backyard, and it's where I cut my teeth. And especially now during COVID, I mean, it goes without saying, considering we can't cross the border. But the market is finite. The reality is that for Canadian brands to really succeed in the grand scheme of things, I really believe that you have to kind of begin here in the Canadian market and understand it and learn and succeed, and then bring it over to the U.S. market. It's obviously easier said than done. But what I have learned is that is the route that is the strongest, most logical route for growth and path to profitability. And let's face it, the path to profitability for small businesses and natural foods is hard to find. It's not an easy route. So if you are ready to, once you are well capitalized and you have the data to prove the units per store per week, it's a lot easier to have that conversation in the US. But it's a big deal. And in regards to American brands coming to Canada, there's all sorts, even though it's a much smaller market, and in theory it should be a territory, there's a lot of compliance you have to deal with, right? We are a bilingual country, so our packaging must be bilingual. And if you are a natural product or a supplement, you have to deal with Health Canada for registration. There are all sorts of intricacies, and they all take time. And I think you'll find for that reason, you'll find a lot of American brands stay away from Canada, or at least without putting too much resources into Canada, until they really can determine it's the right thing to do. And it goes both ways.
It's so frustrating. I think I've mentioned this to you in the past, because when I did work at Weight Watchers, I kind of championed that we would get the foods into Canada, and so many of them had never been in Canada, and even the promo books and everything. And finally we did it. So it's frustrating that so many brands don't do it. But what is amazing is that when Canadians finally get something like that, they're so completely loyal because they just are so excited that they got it. You know what I mean?
You know, what's interesting is the planet, like if you look at the general planograms in grocery and drug, and they almost feel identical. And so the larger brands that have the wherewithal and the capital to play in both markets, that really comes through. I think where we all lose as consumers is that the smaller brands, where often is really the exciting innovation, that's, it's something, sometimes I'm down in New York or Florida, and I just see this brand I wish we'd have on the shelf,
Yeah.
And I'm sure, and I can tell you as a Canadian that we have some incredible innovation here that, unfortunately might never get to the US market, and I hope they do.
What is some of that innovation?
I think that you're going to find it you find it in baked goods, and you find it in beverages. There's some really wonderful protein bars here. Now, again, the protein bar category is massive and saturated, but everywhere you look, you're finding some really great entrepreneurship here.
Now, my next question, Expo West, biggest natural food show. Were you supposed to be there this year? Because I know the cancellation was devastating, and would love to get your thoughts on how it impacted the industry.
You know what? We were all supposed to be there until the very last minute. I remember I was apprehensive to cancel my flight. And then, and then it all came crashing down on everybody. So I think it will be missed, but I think that we will all prevail and survive. Expo West is an exciting event, and I think that in some shape or form, we all want to be there. I will say this as an entrepreneur, but also as the person who so to speak, quote unquote, owns the brand. One thing I've learned about Expo West is if you are from the East, if you are from the Northeast or from Canada, until you're ready to be at Expo West, you might not get the return that you're looking for, meaning that just showing up and just being there doesn't necessarily give you what you're looking for. I would highly suggest that if you're preparing yourself for Expo West, make sure that you have the proper infrastructure in place so that if business is conducted in a way that you suddenly have an opportunity, that you have the manpower, you have the 3PL, you have a distributor that you can name. I think that we're all so excited to be there that sometimes we don't prepare appropriately for it.
Yeah, it's massive.
Yeah.
I remember not Expo West, but when I went to CES, I was like, it was so overwhelming. And it doesn't help that one's in Vegas. So,
right.
So, obviously, BabbleBox is an influencer marketing company. So tell me, I don't know if you do, but what experience do you have working with influencers?
Yeah, that's a really interesting story, actually. To go back to what I was saying earlier, that the culture of our company has been much more about data and about conversion, and a lot less more about impressions. So while we believe in the importance and the success rate of influencers, it wasn't necessarily something that we had planned effectively for. And then we had a really large opportunity about 2-3 years ago. An influencer approached us, and it was I have to say, without naming names, it was a big opportunity for us, and we went down the road. And what we learned really quickly is that we had the influencer, the power of this influencer was so enormous, but it actually was not necessarily on brand, so to speak. It wasn't necessarily the route we would have gone, and it opened doors into, while we should have been focused predominantly on health and fitness, we suddenly found ourselves in arts and culture and hip hop and etc. It was one of those learning experiences where we just all felt it was the wrong fit, both sides. So ultimately, after about 5-6 months, we decided to sever relations. And in hindsight, I think it was the right decision, because I think influencer marketing, it really has to be, for it to be effective, for you to get the return, it needs to be the right fit.
Right. Well,
Yes.
It sounds like you made the right choice there.
I think we did. It would have been really exciting, but exciting doesn't necessarily mean the right decision.
So why do you think for other brands, I know you're not there yet, but in the natural food space, why do you think influencer marketing has been so critical?
You know what? Again, if we think back a decade or so, natural foods was a lot less mainstream. And today, especially today, given COVID, if you think about it, we just really care about what we put in our bodies. We read labels, we want to talk about it, we want to share opinions, we want legitimacy. And I think influencers, good influencers, the strong ones, the legitimate ones, they provide us with that authority that I think we're craving today. And I think it clearly shows that in the growth of the industry.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to end with my final question, which I ask everyone. So, name an influencer you love to follow, but hate to admit that you do.
Okay. You know what? That's a tough question. I'm actually going to say that. Okay. Well, let me back up a little bit. We know for certain who our customers are, and I can say that because if I look at our data, which I look at constantly. We are one thing that differentiates us, I think, from other energy products is that we highly resonate with women. And I'm going to tell you a secret, which is obviously no longer a secret considering the airways that we're on. We thought we were going to be 55% female who purchased our product, and we are closer to the 80%.
Wow.
Which is huge. This is a category that has been predominantly driven by beverages and shots, and now you're starting to get into the mints and gum and chocolate. We also obviously focus heavily on fitness. So I will tell you that I love Serena Williams. I think that she is a goddess, and I'd say that if I could have one influencer to represent BeOn, it would be her.
Maybe you should send her some product.
You know what? I think I might.
I'll try to help you get her address. Well, thank you, Avi, so much. It was so lovely to have you today, and Happy New Year. It's the Jewish high holiday this week. So thanks for tuning in, everyone. And we'll speak to you soon.
Thanks,
Bye. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's Beyond the Box, produced by Tough Monkey Entertainment. Beyond the Box is brought to you by BabbleBox with your host, Sherry Langbert. Visit podcast.babblebox.com for more episodes and influencer marketing secrets.